Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story, where I am using Zoom for the first time ever to record this conversation. I am your host, Todd Nesloni, the Director of Culture and Strategic Leadership at TEPSA. And each episode, I look to bring you another guest who has encouraged, inspired, or challenged me in one way or another, and bring them on to share some of their story in hopes that it inspires you to tell some of yours. I'm thrilled this week to have my special guest, Hayward Jean, on with me. Hayward, tell everybody a little bit about who you are.
Hey, everyone. Listen, I want to tell you this, Todd. You are in home court advantage now because we've been living in Zoom. It's the Zoom room for us, for educators now, especially as principal. But I am a principal, 9-year principal of a school in Orangeburg, South Carolina called Mellichamp. And the last few letters of that word is called champ, which means we put the champ in Mellichamp. And we have a group of phenomenal scholars, educators that are going above and beyond to provide a better quality of life for our scholars. They do more than just teach subjects. They are teaching young people, and they're teaching them to be leaders. We have so many cool things happening in our building. I'm a husband, been married for 14 years to a phenomenal wife, educator. She's a reading coach as well. So our children have a lot to work that's upon them. They are phenomenal scholars as well. 3 children. I'm an educator, but I'm a graduate of Claflin University in Orangeburg, South Carolina. And I was very blessed to be an inaugural member of the program entitled Call Me Mr. That program is designed to recruit, train, and certify African-American males to become elementary school teachers and role models. We had a great endorsement from Oprah when I was 17 years old and became a freshman, and she had us as a part of the Use Your Life Award. And so the first time Tyler Perry was on Oprah was with us, and we had a chance to be launched into the world of education with her nod saying, you know, you're doing a great job. And that's when I got really thrust into it through the Call Me Mr. program. I'm also a pastor, assistant pastor of a church. I'm an author of a book entitled Weapons of Mass Distraction, Destroying the Negative Influence of Hip Hop Music on Our Youth. So I'm really big in community activism with young people in particular. And I'm on the Service Advisory Council in my community. My wife and I do a lot of marriage counseling because we really believe in strengthening families. And people ask me, how do I do everything that I do? I tell them I only do one thing. My only one mission in life is to lift people. And whatever else I can do to use my talents to do that, I'll do it. I'm a motivational speaker. And I didn't make myself a motivational speaker. I was kind of dubbed that title because wherever I go, I'm always trying to lift people. Yeah. And people have classified me as a motivation speaker. May not be as good as you, Todd, but I am on my way. I'm watching you, man. I love what you have going on. So that's a little bit about me.
Oh, man. Well, God, just hearing all that, I have so many questions because I'm so excited to chat to you because there's so many incredible things that you're doing. But, you know, I kind of like to start with your path first into education. Yeah. And so did you grow up ever seeing yourself as a future educator?
No, sir. Not at all. Education to me, the way it was presented to me, it was as if it was a last resort for many. Like you don't want to go there. And so I'm always on my teachers now about making sure that we present education in such a way that we want our children to go into it. We promote it well. I mean, we always tell them, be a doctor, be a lawyer, but whatever you do, don't be a teacher. That's like the message we're sending. Yeah. But I said, let's send a message of teaching is like the best profession ever. But I never got that message. I always got a message of like, you know, turn in your work, you know, that kind of thing. And so I didn't want to be one at all. I laugh at people when they say they were going to school to do that. But when I was presented with the idea, now one thing I was always doing, my mom always trained me and taught me to serve others. I was always empowered to serve others, make life better for other people by serving others. And so when I heard about the program Call Me Mr. and how you can use your life to serve others through education, I said, that sounds close to what I was trained to do all my life. And that's how I was entering into the program, just through a servant mentality. Our program, Call Me Mr., trained me to do this, become a leader first and then an educator second. And so I was taught with that servant mentality, and that's never left me.
Well, you know, and I think that really plays a part into all the success and exciting things that you've got to be a part of is when you keep that servant mind set. I mean, not only does that make you an exceptional educator, but it opens up doors because people begin to see that your heart is genuine and you're not just doing it for a job or you're not just showing up for this, that you're genuinely serving others. And so
that's
I've heard you mention this Call Me Mr. now several times. And so how did you hear about this? Where did this even come from?
Oh, that's interesting you say that. I'm saying it so much now because we're in our 20-year anniversary.
Wow.
It was year 2000 when I entered the program. So you're the first person that I get to talk to on my 20-year anniversary about this. But in 20 years ago, I was entered to the program at 17 years old. And it was found out at the time there was no application for it. They were just seeking a few good men. And so what they did was they would reach out to colleges for their admissions forms and applications. And we were looking for some strong male figures that we believe would be great for this program. Now, I went to Claflin University, but I didn't apply to Claflin University. I have a twin brother. He applied. My mom was a single parent mom. We were raised below the poverty line. So in order for us to go to college, we had to get a scholarship because my mother, we couldn't afford to go. Right. And again, our father was in our life. My dad has about 23 children. By the time we get out of this call, it might be 25. I don't know. I hope not. And it's okay. You can laugh. I forgave my father. I still don't have a relationship with him. That was just why I wanted to get into education, for one of those reasons. A lot of our young people grew up just like me. So I serve children just like me. So some of my children don't just call me principal. Some of them call me dad because we were raised, and you know that story all too well. And so when I entered the program, my mom got the call from my twin brother to enter the program and call me Mr. She said, yes, for us now, yes, he'd love to do it. We were like, my brother's like, no. Right, so yes, he'd love to do it. But she said, but let me tell you, he also has a twin brother. And while the son they called was the vice president of the Student Government Association in my high school, his twin brother, Hayward, yours truly, is the president of the Student Government Association. You really want him. So now she's like my manager, trying to get me a deal, an agent for me. And I'm like, I don't want to be a teacher. Like, did you talk to me about my life? He's like, no, you're going to do this. And that was how I entered to the program. And again, teaching was my mindset, but it was about serving others. I wasn't trying to get a chalk or a chalkboard at all. I just wanted to help. And I wanted to find something I could use all my talents, gifts, and abilities. I like to rap, sing, dance, act, all those things. I can use all that in education. And that's how I was inspired and recruited into the program.
Well, you know, I love that there's a program like that exists because, you know, we talk so much about making sure that we are giving kids access to educators who look and don't look like them. And I know there's been some recent studies recently about just the power of an African-American male teacher, no matter what kind of kid you're working with, the kind of impacts that they have on kids. And so it's such a hard thing to recruit people into a profession like this, especially men into elementary education. But I know the studies show even African-American men are even harder to recruit. And so I think powerful programs like this are a fantastic opportunity because I think what a lot of men find out is once they get in there, they're hooked. And so it's just a matter of getting them in there to see the power they can have in changing these kids' lives and educating them, where they begin to see that, oh, this is a career that I would love to do. Yeah. And so obviously I've got to ask, have you had an opportunity to meet Tyler Perry or Oprah?
Well, yeah, when she had us on the show in 2001 at the time, I mean, I still have a guy that's mad to me to this day because when she took the picture with us, we had like 5 of us taking a picture with her in one group. I still have the picture. It's on my desk. But she snatched me and grabbed me right beside her and took a picture. And my friend wanted a picture beside her, and she got me. And so he's still mad at me to this day about that. And Tyler Perry, yes, we met him at the same day as we were all together on that stage. So right after our segment, you know, his came right after. So we had that bonding interaction.
So I've got to ask, you know, I think sometimes when you get in those moments, it's such an out of body experience. You don't remember it. Cause you know, I think of when I got to meet President Barack Obama, like I don't even remember. I remember one thing. And that is as soon as he walked in the room, I went, oh my gosh, it's the guy from SNL. Like I didn't believe that it was like really the president of the United States in the same room as me. Yeah. And so then when I got to go shake his hand and we took a picture with him and I didn't remember any of it. And thank goodness they had it recorded so that I could watch it later. Do you remember that day or is it kind of like an out of body thing?
I'll actually never forget it. I do remember that day. The program, when I was a part of that program, my mom made it very clear to always be reflective. Mm-hmm. And so she's but she also told me now, you're going to be an Oprah, but don't think that you're going to like, you're the big shot, you know, like she always taught us humility. Humility was like it's probably one of the biggest characteristics that my mom taught me. Mm-hmm. And so I held on to it. I still remember it to the moment. And one reason why I never forget is because Oprah asked us who wants to talk. At the very end of her, revealing us to the world and the exciting part, she said, now, she asked the same question you asked, Todd. Did you always want to be educators? And we all stood there quiet. And she said, who wants to talk? And I wanted to say something. And right before I could get my words out, my best friend spoke. And I was like, I want to talk. And I could not get it out. But at that point, I was in my development stage of I had so much in here, but I couldn't get it out there. Yeah. And there's so many people that's like that to this day. And all they need is practice and experience. That's why I love to speak to first-year teachers. Just let them know you have so much in you, and it's just going to take a process to come out. And I like to help them develop their craft in such a way that they can be their authentic self and let their greatness come out. But that was me at the point. So I do remember it. I remember not being able to talk to her in front of millions because my best friend stole that opportunity.
I love that so much. Well, that obviously led to you being an educator and still staying with it. And now you've had multiple years where you've got to serve as an administrator. How did you know when you were ready to take that leap from classroom to administrator?
Wow. I still don't think I was ready to do that. Because here's why I say that. I always tell people, and I guess I'm telling your listeners now and viewers now that I'm undercover. Like, I'm still a teacher. I'm just undercover. No, I'm still a teacher. I've just got this principal suit on. All right. But I still believe that I'm a teacher to my core. But the interesting thing is when I was taught, I always believed in turning my classroom to the world that our kids can escape to. They can become whatever they want to be in our world. So I always set this environment up. But in that environment, I said, well, in this world, there's only one principal in this world. I'm the principal. I would always call myself the principal of my class. Never wanted to be a principal, but I want them to see me as not like somebody that can sing to the principal. No, you come to me. We handle our issues in our classrooms. Yeah. And I believed in that. But when I would walk the campus, I guess because I carried this atmosphere, little kids that weren't in my class, are you the principal? Are you the principal? They would say that. So I believe in the power of speaking life. I was talking to Hope and Wade the other day about the power of speaking life. I always speak life to children so they can, and I say these words, and I'll share this with the viewers. I always say what you want to see until you see what you said you saw.
Ooh,
that's speaking
I like
life.
That.
Say what you want to see until you see what you said you saw. But I'll always say it, not knowing that I was saying that I was speaking my future. I'm a principal. I'm a principal of this class. And because principals are good teachers. I will always say that. And so because I did it so much, people started viewing me. I never said it to an adult at all, only to my kids. But my colleagues started to see that, and my supervisor started to see that I was more than something that can impact my classroom, but I can impact others. So I saw that I was able to move forward into that because I knew that I was able to replicate what I did in my classroom amongst others because I would be a teacher leader. I would influence a lot of other classrooms from my classroom, just like you did when you were teaching.
Right. I love that. And I love the idea and the reminder of speaking things into existence. And I think that that's important to be using your voice to do that. And so I love that you said that. Well, Hayward, you have had all these great experiences, you've had success, but obviously along the way, I'm sure, throughout many of these episodes to tell your story, we've talked about, really successful people, but still sometimes that doubt begins to creep in. That comparison of where you think, should I be the one up here speaking? Am I the right one? Is this thing like just letting that? How do you keep doubt at bay?
Oh, that's so good. So my first year principalship, oh my gosh. Like that's another segment. That's another episode because my first year I'm so used to everybody liking me as a teacher. Mm-hmm. All the kids loved me, the parents, other teachers, administrators, people try to take me from other schools. And so but then I met with this opportunity of people viewing the principalship as somebody that can take your job away, and so the principalship was always seen as such a punitive role that I was not liked for something that I didn't do. Just because of the role, it took me a while to develop what's called, and John Maxwell calls it leading through your personality, because it takes people, and they have to have permission. You have to give people permission. They have to give you permission to lead them. And that takes relationships, building relationships. And so I had to learn that everybody may not like you because of your position, but once you show them that your position is used to develop others and not used to punish others. And then I can still be fun and model teaching. So then we changed. So we redefined what the principalship was in this area. That's one thing that we did. Yeah. But to keep doubt at bay is I had to keep reminding myself, this is going to help a lot of people, it's not about me. Once I made it, because even when I was saying, they don't like me, at first, that was about me.
Yeah.
Instead of making it about them, I was making it about me. And that's actually a doubt attractor.
Right.
But to get rid of doubt it's not about me anyway. This is about serving others, by helping others. When you put people first, when you serve others, you cannot get it wrong. Right. You can make adjustments to make it better, but you cannot make things worse or bad when you put people first. And that's what I had to do. I had to not make it about me and make it about the people that I serve.
I love that. Well, you know, hearing you when you introduced yourself earlier and hearing you now, I can totally see the pastor side in you and how comes out. I can just imagine you in staff meetings and stuff, and they're like, oh, he's preaching right now. And so when did the pastor side of things become something that you were going to bring in as part of your path too?
It was actually around the same time, because my faith in God is the reason why I do what I do. Like, I really feel like you don't really choose education, you're called to it.
Right.
You know, and so I felt like I was called to it. So in a sense, this is a ministry as well. This is another form of it. So I'm not in school converting people and things like that, right. but I'm using my light to help others shine. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so that's what we do. And so it kind of works together. You know, even in my role as a teacher, yeah. I said, well, there was a master teacher that taught me, you know, and that's my Lord. And so my Lord Jesus was the master teacher. And so I said, well, there's no better teacher than him. So let me learn from him how to teach people, how to delegate leadership, how to empower people, how to build up people, how to put people first, how to serve and be humble, how to be so I learned all those ways. And so it all literally works together. And it's been pretty successful for me and for people that I work with for so long so far.
Well, you know, as a teacher, you're in charge of that classroom. As a principal, you've got all these teachers that you're trying to lead and help lead kids. And as a pastor, you've got all your flock that you're trying to lead as well. What would you say you've learned is the biggest difference for you between being a pastor and being a principal?
Oh, man, I've never heard a question like that. Who do you think you are? Oh, wow. So I would say the biggest difference for me would have to be the content. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. The content that I use. I have to say that because in the principalship role, I have to use more stories that are relative to the work that we do. Right. But of course, in my pastoral role, I'm able to use scriptures to go with it. And so in a sense, oh, this is so good, man. You're going to have me thinking about this now. So in a sense, what I'm doing is actually as a principalship, I'm actually living out the stories that are referenced in the scriptures that I teach at church. Mm-hmm. That's essentially what's happening. And so I get I have a lot of sermons that I write for my church family based on what's happened in my school family. Uh-huh. And so this is just a life with no scripture verses in the principalship role.
I was going to say, you know, as I think about it, I think of my own pastor at my church, and I'm like, you know, I bet he'd make a good principal. He just can't say Jesus as much as he does, or say, you know what, come here, we're gonna pray over this.
There you go.
It's like I'm gonna pray for you when you leave my office, when you're a principal. But at church, it's like, come in here, we're gonna pray.
There you go. Oh, that's good, man.
But I mean, I can see so much of how, you know, I think one unique thing about your position is that I can see how those roles play off of each other, and how something that happens with you leading the church can then play into helping you grow better as a principal, but vice versa too, because you got two different sets of leadership that are very similar but have a little bit differences. So I could see it definitely helping grow in both of those.
That's a good point.
So, you know, I know you didn't see education in your path growing up at all, but did you see ministry at all in your path either?
Nope. Not at all. My grandmother did, because I used to love chicken. And she would always say, you like chicken, you're going to be a preacher. Because I guess growing up, everybody she knew was a preacher. My grandmother was really big on serving in ministry. She said, all the preachers I know love chicken. So, and I love chicken. I just loved it. And she said, you're going to be a preacher. Watch this. I'm a preacher now, but I'm a vegetarian.
Really?
I've been a vegetarian now for about 5 years, but I'm a preacher. So my grandmother got it right, but it's not because I love chicken. It's really because I love Jesus. Because
is your grandmother still around?
No, she's not. And she helped to raise us. And I say sadly because I miss her so much, but she transitioned about 2 years ago.
So before she passed, did she know that you were a vegetarian?
Say it one more time.
Before she passed, did she know you became vegetarian?
Yes, she did, because I couldn't eat any of her chicken.
How did she handle that?
It was rough for her. It was rough for her. It was
I
tough. It
bet.
was tough.
That's hilarious. Well, Hayward, one question I always love to ask too is, when you, throughout your life, obviously there's been lots of joys and successes, but there's also been struggles and failures and things like that too. When you reflect on your own path, what is something that you can look back on now and say that was really instrumental into creating the man I am today?
Wow.
And I know there's probably lots of examples, but what's one that comes to mind?
I would say really being raised by my single parent mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, being raised by my single parent mom in below the poverty line, it built in us a level of creativity, resilience, appreciation, and values.
Right.
I still lean on those to this day. It's positioned me to be a husband, a father, minister, principal, community activist, author. Everything that I do, I believe it was formed in that house, being raised by my mom, who had to be so creative. We would call her the Black MacGyver. If you know about MacGyver,
Yeah.
She would learn how to put things together to make things work. We didn't know we were poor until we were 25 years old, because she didn't burden us with that.
Right.
She showed us how to turn obstacles into opportunities, lemons into lemonade. And because of that, I think that's why I'm where I am today.
I love that. Well, Hayward, one of the questions I always love to end all of these conversations on is, people who listen or watch these episodes, some of them are educators, some have nothing to do with education. They're just looking for great stories about life. What is one thing that's heavy on your heart that you wish more people knew or understood? What would your one thing be?
Man, I would say one thing I think people really, really need to know is the power of purpose. People are always so frustrated with the idea of not thinking that they were created to do something special. Right. It doesn't mean you got to do something that nobody has done, but there's something that you can do that somebody may have done, but not like you, because you didn't do it. Everybody needs to know that they have their own thing. I mean, if restaurants have their own thing, if Burger King has the big Whopper, McDonald's has the Big Mac, Chick-fil-A has everything. Love Chick-fil-A, but everybody has their thing. And so people need to understand and find out what their thing is. And I got to tell everybody, they all need to know this. Everything that is you, everything about your purpose and who you are has to do with one thing, that's serving others. I believe we all have one common purpose, and that is to help people. Now, the way we do our purpose is totally different, but I believe we all have one in common, that's to help people. I think the danger that we have is when we compare ourselves to other people. To me, that's like spiritual suicide, because you're negating who you are, because you're measuring yourself up by a standard that is not even for you anyway. So don't compare yourself to other people. Understand that you were created for something special and you have a purpose. And if you don't know what it is, keep helping people, and I promise you, you'll run right into it.
I love that. Well, Hayward, I have been so excited to get to chat with you, and it did not disappoint. Thank you so much for making time to come on and tell your story today.
Todd, you rock, man. I want to talk to you again, man. I love your passion, love what you're about, and you got my full support.
Thanks, man. Well, thank you everybody for listening or watching another episode of Tell Your Story. Remember, you can check out past episodes on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, wherever you get your stuff, it's there. I hope today's conversation with Hayward has encouraged you to get out there and tell your story, because every story matters.